Hello again and thanks for joining. Today we've got a 2-coach set from Lima. I really like Lima stuff because they always did really weird and wonderful items, and I think these are a good example of just that. The number on this is 309264 and L. And I think it might be L and R, but the other box doesn't have a number on it. But they do actually go together. But what is this? So these coaches represent carriages of the DAB6b type, which were produced between 1936 and 1937. They were commissioned by the Lübeck Buchener Eisenbahn, or LBE, and they were designed with 2-axle Jacobs bogies and intended to be hauled by streamliner tender locomotives. So they would go together as a pair and be hauled maybe in multiples of 2. They were run by the LBE for a while, but after the Second World War they ended up in the Deutscher Bundesbahn hands, and they ran right through into the 1970s before they were withdrawn, so quite a long operational career. So I think it's going to be really interesting to check out these HO scale models of them, so let's get them open and we'll check them out. So in one of them we have this little leaflet showing that you can add little windscreen wipers onto the front of the carriages. And I do actually have the little set of windscreen wipers as well. They were included in the box, so that's really cool. So we've got enough for both carriages here. So it's clear that these were sold as a 2-car set. And here are the carriages, very unusual looking, almost out of scale at the front, but great looking double deck coaches. This one here only has one bogie at the front. It doesn't have a bogie at the back because it shares a common centre bogie. The other one has this section here which goes between the two, and you can connect up the coaches that way. But let's have a closer look at each of these. So while this is a really interesting and unusual prototype, as usual Lima's rendition of it isn't actually really that good in terms of the finish. You can see that this yellow line here, which is for the first class section on this carriage, isn't actually really that good. I think it's maybe a transfer. It's got a little bit of an overlap there, and also it's a little bit fuzzy as well. It doesn't work that well across the top of the doors or underneath the windows here. Top of the carriage is painted silver and it's a little bit fuzzy as well where it's been masked off, but I am probably being pretty harsh with Lima here because they were always made to a budget, and that's reflected in the price of these carriages, and I'll tell you how much I paid for these at the end of the video. But what we do get is flush fit glazing, which is very clear, and we've got a full interior there. Certainly would have been quite interesting riding in these carriages because this area here looks like a kind of lounge area where you'd have a great look out onto the rails if you were at the back of the train. We've got these bumpers here, they're not actually buffers at all, and they seem to have extra pieces just put in here. And there's this bulge here, which I'm not quite sure what that is. There's an indication of some lighting here, but these don't have any pickup, but there could be a little opportunity here to add in some LEDs if you're interested. We do have a hole here for the windscreen wiper, which we saw in the instructions there. And we do actually have NEM pockets here with the coupling, so we can put these together if we want. This has got a bit of articulation on the bogie as well. So looking down the side here, you can really see the handrails, which have been picked out in this gold colour. They're actually part of the moulding, so that's been added on as maybe a foil print, so that's really cool. And you can see the first class here and a couple of destination boards. And as we move down the carriage, unfortunately you can see how this has been put together with this post inside the first set of windows there. But aside from that, it's really quite nice. You can see all the seats inside in this brown piece of plastic. Only half of this coach is first class and the rest is second class. And as we move further down, there's another door with those lovely gold handles as well. Not much detail down below in the black area here. And looking underneath, we have some checkerboard effect. I'm not quite sure why that's been put in because you'd never see it, but it's under there anyway, but there's nothing on the side skirt here. However, it is finished in black, and again the masking isn't 100%, but it's not too bad I suppose. It's held together with these 2 screws here, and if you have a look at the bogie, there's a lot of nice detail on it. We don't have any breaks in line with the wheels or anything like that, but there is a lot of deep relief there and we can see the springs quite nicely. Up on the roof there's some grills and vents at this end of the carriage, but it's pretty plain the whole length of the rest of it. We do have a bit of a moulding mark in the middle which is a bit annoying, but aside from that it's not too bad. The finish of the silver is pretty good. And at this end of this one we have this little kind of drawbar thing which attaches onto the other carriage. So let's have a look at that as well. So this one is a little bit heavier than the one we just had a look at, and it's all second class. What I didn't mention was the DB and the number in the middle. They both have the same number on these, and you can see the DAB6b specification of this carriage. And there's also some more printing down in the bottom here. But if I flip it around the other way, you can see that there's no DB logo on this side, and that matches up with the other carriage, so it would just show that DB logo on one side of the train. This one obviously differs because we have this central bogie with this interesting plastic piece here which looks like kind of bellows or something. It's quite convincing actually, and it looks quite cool. And we saw the drawbar would just slot into here. It's a very similar bogie moulding. I like the small wheels as well. They're actually quite dulled metal. Now that might be with age. And they're fairly free rolling. They're not great to be honest, but I think they're good enough. And this one seems to be a little bit heavier than the first one. It might just actually be this back bogie. So up here we can see the Lübeck and Hamburg destination, which is quite cool. And another 2 for second class. There's also some writing down here underneath the door. And this one seems to have, maybe this is a baggage compartment or something because it's got an additional door moulded in here. But the front of it is exactly the same as the first one. So they are quite cool coaches. I really like the design of them. There are some limitations, but I think as a kind of budget railway model and also something quite unusual, this has got a lot of appeal. Let's put each of them onto the scales and we'll see how much they weigh. Okay, the one with the extra bogie is 162 grams and the one without is 139. So Lima's rendition of the Deutscher Bundesbahn DAB6b two-car set is, I think, really very interesting. It's a very unusual model, this, and it also represents something which I think was maybe one of the first ever double-deck coaches. I'm not quite sure, let me know in the comments below, but certainly from the 1930s and 40s, this was kind of pretty pioneering, I think. It's great that Lima went ahead and made these. It's from a time when Lima was still Italian-owned, and they pushed the boat out with all different manner of unusual models. Maybe not executed quite as good as they could have been, but you got to give them credit for tackling these more unusual models and bringing them to market. And these two are testament to it. I've never seen models of these before. I'm really lucky to get my hands on these. Now, of course, Lima is now owned by Hornby, and it seems to be that what Hornby is doing is just rolling out older models and just packaging it up as a new model. So maybe the tooling of this still exists, in which case we might get a new version and it might be revised and maybe the finish will be a bit more accurate. And that would be really good because this is such an unusual set of coaches. And in terms of price, in case you were wondering, I actually got these, I think, at a bargain price of £25 for the set, which I think is really good value because they're just so unusual. I feel really happy that I've managed to have a look at these today, and I hope you've enjoyed this video too. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. It really helps this channel, and you can subscribe for more videos like this. I'll put one of these onto the turntable so you can see all the way around, and in a moment another video will appear. So just click on that and I'll see you there. But that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
So model trains, model worlds, choo-choo, model trains, in tiny worlds, choo-choo, so model trains, tiny trains, model worlds, choo-choo, model trains, in tiny worlds, choo-choo.